Hello and welcome to Public Report. I'm Desiree Hord, your host, and our guest today is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Wisconsin, Rebecca Kleefisch. Our issue is crime and our topic is reducing crime. Lieutenant Governor, please tell our viewers about yourself and your position as the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Wisconsin.
Well, I'm the mother of two little girls and the wife of a state representative, and that makes our family fairly political. Our kids are actually starting to finish their vegetables early so they don't have to listen to the member of Joint Finance and the Lieutenant Governor try and discuss how to solve the $3.6 billion budget deficit over macaroni and cheese. And so that makes family life kind of interesting for us and them. But as Lieutenant Governor, I like to say that my mom role plays into my Lieutenant Governor role, because truly what I am doing is looking out for the futures of Wisconsin's sons and daughters, because we are looking at everything in this administration through the lens of job creation. You know that Governor Walker and I pledged to help the private sector create 250,000 new jobs over the next 4 years. That's 10,000 new small businesses. And we know that nationwide, about 80% of new jobs are created through small businesses. We want to encourage growth in our private sector because there is no social program better than getting people to work.
Do you believe that crime and combating it are receiving the focus and attention needed?
Under Governor Walker, absolutely. You know that he just introduced his budget, and I think that what he did was truly focus like a laser beam on crime, specifically child predators. We know that there is a huge problem in the internet and children who can be preyed upon by people who are criminals. And frankly, we have a deep disconnect between the number of people who have bad things on their mind and the number of people that we have working at the Department of Justice who are able to go out to do the research and combat this type of crime. And so what Governor Walker has done is allot nearly $1 million in new funding to make sure that there isn't that disconnect anymore, that we are finding those potential criminals and we are making sure that they are not harming Wisconsin's children.
How costly is incarceration to the state?
Well, it is about $783 million a year. It costs about $32,000 a year in order to have a prisoner in the state of Wisconsin. So it is very costly. But more than that, the costs are to the children of the state of Wisconsin, the children who are the victims, the children who are made victims by having a parent who has resulted to a life of crime, and that's very unfortunate. We can't have crime be a choice, and so what we need to do is we need to lift up the folks who are making bad choices and help them to make good choices.
Do you believe there are factors attributing to criminal behavior? Are there societal issues that contribute to it? And do you believe there are root issues that must be addressed?
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, yourself being a journalist, you understand, and myself being a former journalist, that when you go into specifically sometimes of central cities, you see it. You see it when you cover it, and it's a sad shame. Sometimes it's desperation that leads to a life of crime. Sometimes it's desperation that leads to a single instance of crime that can ruin the lives of many people. That desperation can come from a number of things. It can come from undereducation. It can come from emotional issues that may have resulted from abuse or a broken family. It can come from financial strain. We're in the middle of the deepest economic recession in generations here in the state of Wisconsin, and a lot of people are so stressed by financial issues that that desperation gets a hold of them. There are a lot of things that are preventable, though, through faith-based organizations and education, encouraging families to work together so that desperation doesn't creep in.
Do you believe there are effective crime prevention strategies? And if so, what are they and why do they work?
Well, of course there are effective crime prevention strategies. One of them, faith-based organizations, I was able to see firsthand. I went to the Milwaukee State of the City Symposium not too very long ago, and I listened to different faith-based organizations talk about how they are going about their work using no taxpayer dollars in order to help save people from lives of crime. We need to make sure that we're investing as communities in organizations like this who are having tremendous success rates.
Do you believe enough is being done to reduce recidivism? Is it strictly something the state should be responsible for, and should other organizations be involved?
Absolutely. We need to partner with organizations who are going to help us reduce recidivism. Recidivism is too much if only one person commits a crime again, and I'm pretty sure that most of Wisconsin would agree with me on that. But it's not all the state's fault. There are some things that we can be doing at the local level. There are things that we can be doing in schools. There are things that we can be doing through faith-based organizations, churches, charities, and we need to work together, because if we're not working together, oftentimes we're working against one another. We can't compete in order to help solve our problems. We need to make sure that we're partnering instead.
What do you believe needs the most focus, crime prevention, offender punishment, or reducing recidivism?
Well, frankly, they all have the same outcome. You want to reduce crime. And so I don't think you can necessarily pick and choose. When it comes to punishment, obviously, you need to make sure that you're punishing criminals. When it comes to reducing recidivism, you need to make sure that people don't become criminals again. And when it comes to crime prevention, you want to make sure that it never happens in the first place. The entire goal is the public safety of the state of Wisconsin. And so we need to make sure that we're focusing attention on all three.
Do you believe we can see a reduction in crime, and if so, how can this be achieved?
Absolutely. I believe we can see a reduction in crime, and I think we've seen it, especially in Milwaukee, our largest city. I have seen over the years, covering politics, covering crime, covering government, that there are a number of programs that work and some that don't work, to be frank with you. But what we need to do is focus on the programs that work and make sure that we're analyzing them so that we know for a fact that they're working. We need to make sure that we're getting the best return on our investment. And what that means is we need to make sure that we're studying the programs that we're implementing so that we're using our dollars wisely. These are taxpayer dollars, and they don't want to see any crime prevention or any recidivism program or any punishment program go down the tubes because it was a good program but hadn't been researched properly. We need to make sure that what we're doing is science-based and fact-based and is truly accomplishing the purposes it was set out to do.
Okay. And as we've been talking about reducing crime, do you believe that crime and combating it are receiving the focus and attention that's needed?
I do, specifically in this budget. We can always do better. There's no doubt about that. But using our scarce resources in the way that Governor Walker has, I believe he has done an excellent job of making sure that the folks who need to be locked up, are getting the treatment that they need, and so they don't recommit crimes. But I think we also, as a public, need to make sure that we're investing in our children, our children's futures. That means education, that means faith-based programs, that means investing in charities that do outreach. And I think as a public, we could perhaps do more of that.
Is there anything that you would say that would help encourage just the average citizen to take some of those proactive steps that you just mentioned?
Well, sometimes it feels like you're just throwing a bucket of water in the ocean and trying to make it rise. But what we need to realize is that one person does make a difference. A lot of people ask, especially when it comes to political things, well, if I can only do a little, why should I bother? I'm not going to make a big difference. That's not true at all. If you can do a little, and there are other people who are doing a little along with you, it can make a big difference, and we need to realize that.
Well, thank you for being on the show, Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Kleefisch.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And we'll be right back after this short announcement.